it's Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Angel Butts, and we're going to talk about some race things and also a little bit of politics. So, welcome, Angel, to a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. How I know Angel is we're family, even though we might not look like it.
Absolutely.
My brother is married to her sister, so we are now in-laws. So, and this is weird because it's only like the second time or third time we met at the wedding 2 years ago, and we talked at the wedding and at the rehearsal, and that's about all the communication we've had. So we're going to get to know each other a little bit.
I know, finally.
Yeah, I know. It's about time. So my first question for you is actually not a question. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a copy editor. I have my own business, so I've been working from home since before it was required.
Very nice.
I've been working from home for, gosh, I guess about 9 years. Before that, I was a graduate student at Rutgers University in New Jersey, where I also taught in the sociology. I was ABD, which basically means that I was working on my dissertation at the time that I left the program. So I have my master's in sociology.
Very nice. We'll have to get into some conversation sometime when I come up there.
Yes, yeah. I mean, this is where I sort of end up veering into, because I have always been really interested in, people confuse sociology and social work all the time, but they're completely different animals. Sort of attracted me to sociology is the questions of what makes people make the political decisions that they make. What compels people to vote the way that they vote, to think the way that they think in large groups, right? Like what creates tribes, not just political tribes, but also cultural tribes,
herd mentality type deal thing.
Yeah, or what makes people form the group that they choose.
Yeah.
And they make those choices in so many different ways. So that's sort of how I got attracted to sociology. And since I've left sociology, that's definitely got a lot more political.
Yeah.
So I think we've gotten to know each other a lot more than we've had the opportunity to do in real life.
Yeah.
And so I think, of everything, you've probably seen me write a lot more about politics than anything else. So that's why.
That's why my brother suggested I should talk to you, because you hit on two of you with your life, your home life and your life in general. You hit on the mixed girl aspect really, really good, and then also the political side, because I do delve into politics with my what I'm trying to do. So he said, talk to Angel, she will be a great interview. So I'm glad he suggested to interview.
Also, I've really been,
and I'm glad we can get to know each other a little better too.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go in. We're going to talk about more your life first, and then we'll delve into the politics. So you all know Angel's married to a Black man, and she has Black children. And my first question is, especially with your sisters and with this, what do you think your parents instilled in you guys to step out of your race for significant others?
It's funny. I remember from when we were very young, and I guess it was because I sort of the Black sheep of the community growing up. So I always felt like no matter, if I ever found a partner, it was going to be somebody who was out of the ordinary, because there wasn't anybody I could see myself partnering with that was anybody, that was
Yeah.
not because I didn't like anybody, but because I was so othered myself. And the only Black people in my orbit at that point were literally no Black people. I remember the first time I saw a Black person in my life. They were in the mall. I was old enough to actually remember this.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Black people on TV, and every now and then there'd be some sort of storyline about, the forbidden relationship between a Black person and a white person. And the white parents were always like, oh,
Yeah.
because I was like that kind of kid. I'd be like, well, what would you do if I, had a Black boyfriend? And my parents were always like, well, doesn't, and they never made a big deal of it.
Yeah.
So I sort of kept that in the back of my head. I never thought it would actually happen, because who would I meet in my life, right?
Yeah, especially up there.
Yeah, it just never crossed my mind. I thought more about what would it be like to marry somebody outside of my religion. I thought that would be more likely.
Yeah.
Let
me interject. Full disclosure, so everybody knows, if you didn't see the video I did with my brother, they live up in Maine. So this is why we're like, yeah, because there's not a lot of Black people up in Maine.
Yes, we are in fact in the United States. So we are more diverse now. Significantly more diverse now than we were when I was growing up.
Yeah, definitely.
There was, when I was in 6th grade, I think, there was a girl who came from England. She was the Black student I had ever gone to school with. She left after a year, and it wasn't until high school that there was another Black student in the whole Scarborough school system.
Oh, wow.
So I went to in the whole, and I went, that was the only school system I was ever in. So for the whole 12 years that I went to, Scarborough schools, I had the opportunity to meet 2 Black people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never really thought about it. And when I met Trevor, was sort of irrelevant, I guess. I was sort of kind of dating people at the time, and I wasn't serious about anybody at the time. And I had kind of planned on wasn't thinking of him in any serious way until I realized that he was a really nice guy, and I didn't want to take advantage of him as I usually was.
Yeah.
So then I wouldn't go out with him anymore, and because I wanted to be friends with him, and we ended up being really good friends, and we became friends. We were friends for 7 years before I would even go out. I was like, I'm never going to go out with you. We need to knock it off. But eventually, I saw him in a different light, and when we got together, it was a no-brainer, and race didn't enter into it in any way. And it's funny because looking back on it, I would say in the last maybe 5 years, my relationship with race has changed a lot. Sort of my woke status has really progressed, and I
you kind of have to be
ignorant I was during those times.
And now at this time, you kind of have to be with with black children. You have.
It changes. It changes, and I'm so grateful that I've learned as I have, and that I continue to learn, because that's the idea. It's there's always more. There's always more to take in. There's always more to sort of take on.
Yeah.
and there's always more to share. But when I sort of look back at that early part of our relationship and sort of thinking, people would ask that, like, is it weird to date somebody from a different race? And be like, it's not, we don't talk about it. It's not something that's ever come up. It's not an issue with us.
Yeah.
Very like, oh, I felt, and now I think of that as being so flippant, like that the idea that it wasn't an issue. I don't know, like I think of it very differently now.
Yeah. Well, with how things are changed, I mean, things had gotten better, for Black people. I mean, not to the best extent, but things have gotten better. We've also suppressed a lot. We don't put out as much as, our grievances and stuff like that as much as we should, but things have progressed so much, and then we started sliding back, and things have gotten so much worse over the last 5 years. I wonder what helped push that along a little bit. So my next question, let me see. How do you feel society treats you and your children? Like, do you notice things that people might do, like when they see, like when I was a kid, one of my first memories, especially first racial memory, is I was at a supermarket with my mom, and remember running up with, cereal or a candy bar, stuff that kids do. Mommy, and the people just turning and being little old ladies going, and they literally like gasped and put their hand to their mouth, and because they thought she was my babysitter or something like that. And that's one of my earliest memories of a racial type thing. So do you notice things like that, even with just you and your husband out, or you as out with your kids?
Oh, of course, all the time. I get, I see that sort of look of surprise all the time.
Yeah.
But then there's the out loud, oh, is that your mother? Even from kids, from the kids that they play with. But what happens actually all the time, for me, because my hair is gray when it's not dyed, or even when it's bright blue, which I think is easier, they'll say, is that your grandmother?
Oh, no.
And it's like because I'm so white, I can't possibly one that gave birth to them. Like I must be 2 generations away, because that is really white. And I'm like, that's the only thing I can think of, because I mean, I don't think I look that old that I would have to be the grandparents of my own children.
No, you definitely don't.
So like, but I can see when my, this is as white as my hair, quarantine forever.
Yeah.
But in general, you've seen me before. I have
when I met you, you had blue hair. So
I don't know in what universe most old ladies have blue hair, but this is more than a handful of times. But generally, people think that if we are related, I must be the grandmother.
That's just pure ignorance,
Yeah.
So, have you guys ever had anybody like either with, well, I don't, then again, some people don't care if they're that racist. Have you ever had anybody be confrontational with you guys, with either you and the kids, or even just you and your husband?
I think the first time I noticed something, it wasn't really confrontational, but the first time I noticed that parenting my kids was going to be a little different for me was, we had come home. We were living in New York at the time. Just to clarify for the people out there, I about 25 years in New York City. That's where I met my husband. That's where I had my kids. I moved back to Maine about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe this week, actually. but this was when we were still living in New York, and we had come up to visit for Christmas or something, when Zoe was a toddler, barely one maybe. And I took her to one of those like me and me sing along groups at the library, the Portland Public Library, and like at lunchtime or something.
Yeah.
And I went in and sat down on the carpet, and we sort of get going, and I realized, like, I looked up, and I swear to God, that moved their kids away. And I was like, did that really just happen?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I didn't even know what to do.
Yeah.
My I'm sorry, but my daughter is like the cutest, sweetest little thing. But that's all I could think of. I was like, well, in fact, yes, she's the only brown baby in here, and I can't think of any other reason it happened.
Yeah.
It was really upsetting. We didn't, surprise, we never went back to the library to do any fun mommy and me stuff.
That's so sad. Oh, and people sometimes, because there's the, I can't think of the words right now. There's people who outright racist, and people who, don't always realize that what they're doing is racist. And sometimes
I feel like I didn't even realize they did it.
Yeah. And sometimes that's almost more hurtful because an outright racist, you can be like, yep, you're a racist. But somebody when somebody does something that you have to question, were they doing that? Because, makes you have to think about, what was that all about? It's almost more hurtful, I find, because it's like, what did I do? You got to start questioning, like, no, don't question it. They're just being racist.
Yeah, it's like our existence provokes this visceral response in a person that they don't even have to consciously think of, just going to react to the fact that we're here. I mean, I think that's awful.
Yeah, it is. It's awful, and no child should have to go through that. It's just like a child doesn't pick who their parents are, and my parents decided to get together, you guys decided to get together, and it's like they're just trying to be kids. They're just trying to be absolutely normal kids, and there's no need for it. Nobody should treat a child that way. And I dealt with a lot of stuff growing up in Derry from racists, and like I said, my first experience as a child, remembering, oh, wait a minute, something's different. It's a child should never have to go through anything like that. So my next question, let's get into George Floyd a little bit, or George Floyd and the whole arc of this year of 2020. What are your feelings on how everything went down when you saw the actual video, and in general, police violence across this country, and how, also to expand on that, how society treats, there's kind of two justice systems for the Black community and other communities.
I mean, I think it's actually a good segue from the conversation we were just having.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of unconscious action that some people have to a person's skin color. Those ladies at the library moved their kids away when they saw my daughter without realizing it, because they had that vision. And I think the problem with institutions in our justice system and in policing in general, the problem with getting rid of institutional racism in policing, exactly that visceral reaction that not only white people have, but Black people have too. It's part of how we are
conditioned, you know.
civilized to think of Blacks, to put to equate in with danger, right?
Yeah.
We're socialized in that way through through our media, both fictional and non-fictional, right? I mean, we see Black criminals on the news disproportionately in terms of the way, you know, how often they're committing the crimes, right? When crimes are, if a crime is committed by a Black person, it's much more likely to be on the news than committed by a white person, right?
Yeah.
So, and Black people are watching the same television shows that we are, that the white people are, right? So, you know, it's frustrating to me when, you know, when people say, oh, okay, well, it's not institutional racism when the armed Black person is also Black. And to me, it is. To me, it's the same. To me, it's still racism. I think that it is more than possible for Black people to grow up with and respond to in the same visceral way.
Oh yeah, because it's in the DNA of our country, you know. Yeah. When it's so ingrained in this country for even, you know, like how even now, like you said, the media, in our media, and I'm not talking about like the news, just the news, but I'm talking like movies and music. Black people are shown as entertainers or sports, but we're not good enough to be president. We had a president that was Black now, thank goodness. Hopefully we're going to have a vice president.
Well, but that was an outrageous mistake. Yes. You know, that was
an abomination.
It was an abomination, and the worst thing that
ever happened
the worst put upon in this country, and that's what we're paying for now.
Yep. That's and also like movies where, you know, especially like when I was a kid, I'm a little older than you. When you were a kid, for the most part, Black people were the drug dealers and the gangbangers, and there were very few parts that were showing Black people in a good light. That is definitely changed. That's definitely come a long way, but it has such a long way to go. And I mean, that's why Black Panther was such an important movie to the Black community and beyond the Black community. But one, to show the Black community, yes, we can be regal and powerful and not be the drug dealer or a gangbanger or anything like shown in a bad light. And we can be a superhero too. That's why that movie meant so much to society in general. You know, it's definitely an issue that that our system was built this way. Our system was built that Black people and Indigenous people and, you know, us are like bottom of the pyramid, you know. It was built on our backs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, representation is something that, you know, as a concept, I've always sort of understood, you know, that there's a problem with representation or lack of representation of minorities in entertainment forever. And I could understand that sort of intellectually.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until really, I mean, I feel like there's been this huge, just in the past year, like this massive waterfall of, you know, all of a sudden there's, you know, huge representation, I feel, of Blackness on television.
Yes, Black TV has come around a lot faster than movies have.
Yes, yes, and I'm not a movies person, so like I have to say I'm speaking specifically of television.
Yeah.
But there is so much more blackness, and like not like there'd be the one or two black characters, but like real black shows.
Blackish, and even when like Kerry Washington was doing her show, Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder, these amazing parts for Black women.
And also when I say black shows, I don't mean black shows that are intended specifically for the black audience that go on to BET and things like that, which I think also aren't helpful for representation really. So they're sort of set aside and don't become part of the mainstream culture. But I'm seeing a lot more, and I think what really punched me in the face with it was that, and I haven't looked, I wish I knew more about the original series, but when I saw the advertisements for the new Fargo. And I was like, whoa, like I'd like to go back and watch the original series because I never did. But it was sort of one of those moments where I was, it's going to piss so many people off, like that had to be a decision that people had to really think about, and I mean, I think it's fantastic. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But to think about how far television has gone in terms of feeling comfortable with decisions, I think is amazing. I don't think they would have made that decision even 2 years ago.
Probably for a show like that. Yeah, maybe. And Chris Rock says that is his best part he's ever played.
That's awesome. I can't wait to check it out.
I want to explain something. There's been a bug flying around my room, and at one point I flicked it out of my hair. So for the viewers, I wasn't like weak and lose my mind. I'm trying to be like sane about it, but it's been buzzing around my head. Then like it landed in my hair, and I was like in the middle of the video. So I just want to explain that a little. Okay. But what about George Floyd? What was your reaction to that incident?
Oh God.
It's a tough one. It
was. I mean, it was definitely that was one of those where you sit and you think, I hope this is enough. Like for me, it was, I hope this is enough. I hope this is the one that makes the difference, but I didn't think it would. And
I agree.
And that made me so sad.
Yeah.
That even what we were looking at, I knew was not going to be the end of it. And it wasn't. I mean, how many days was it?
Yeah.
While we were watching this, thinking about this all over the country, and we're in the streets, and you would think that every police officer in the country thinking, Jesus, I better not,
act up.
Wouldn't you? That's what you would think, right? But I mean, it's days later, it obviously there's huge problem. It keeps happening and happening and happening and happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what it did do is at least take the forward in terms of if it didn't stop, it did show a hell of a lot of people that the first problem is getting to actually give a shit.
Yeah, that is the first. I mean, I think that the whole George Floyd murder, it was an eye-waking, an opening event for a lot of people, because they started to say, I've been saying this for a very long time, that the Black community needs their white counterparts and allies to step up. And a lot of people who were kind of allies were like, whoa, wait a minute. This is what's been going on. This is what you guys have been saying. Because I've never seen this. I've seen, yeah, there was a shooting and stuff like that. But to see somebody kneel on somebody's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds it makes that, it's not even 10 minutes, but it felt like hours when you're just watching this person's life.
And listening to him plead for his life.
Yes.
And tell him in no uncertain terms that he's being killed.
And for the officer to sit there and stare into the camera like he didn't give a F about anything. He was just going to do what he wanted to do. And he didn't care that he was being filmed. I made myself a promise when I found out about Floyd's murder that I was not going to be silent. And I haven't been. I've always spoken out. But I decided that I was going to take action within my means with my health issues. I can't be out there, in the streets all the time and doing this stuff. But that's why I started this project, because I can't be silent, and I can use my mouth, and I use my mouth very well. So I want to make sure that I spread information to people who might not see things. And that's why I want to talk to people like you who have things from a perspective where, you do have a Black family, you're part of a mixed family. So these voices are important, not just getting Black voices, but also getting people who are definitely allies because you created a family with a Black man. So I appreciate you talking to me about this, because it's conversations that really, really need to be had.
And I love to have them. I love to have these conversations. I will about this topic. And in fact, I talked to my other sister, Alicia, who I don't know if you've met very much, but we talk a lot, and we talk a lot about this. And frustrated I do get that about how hard it is for me to get people to engage when I want to talk to people, because it's, like you said, I think one thing that George Floyd did do is bring a lot of white allies, wake up a lot of white allies. I have seen some people in my life that I wished more enlightened about race.
Yeah.
It did bring them forward in ways that made me proud, and have made me feel much more connected with those people. And I'm grateful for that. And I feel like if that's happening all over, which I assume it is, then there is movement forward. And that's really important, because like you said, that's that this, that we get where we need to be.
Yeah.
We got to do it together.
There's no way we're going to get forward if we don't have a collective stepping forward saying, no, enough is enough. And not just about policing, but against racial issues in general. Ugh, I can't talk today.
Yep.
Because nothing's going to progress if we don't do it as a collective. We need to stand up to people who are bigoted and racist and tell them we are not allowing this to continue in our society. There's no reason for it for this to keep going. And if you have views like this, you're wrong. It's a collective saying it, not just, the Black community or, the Hispanic community screaming it like we are being killed, or, we're being harassed, and, this is happening to me at work because of this, girls not being able to wear their hair in braids because it's not allowed in schools. And there's so many things that people don't understand, that rules get put on the Black community that other people don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
So let's move a little bit into politics, because I know that you like going into that too. Are you guys going to get rid of Miss Susan Collins?
Oh God, I hope. You know, I think the numbers so far have been looking really good.
Yeah.
I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
Right. The best I can say is that it's a tie. I'm happy to be able to say that. I'd love to see her go. I mean, she's been a nightmare, and
she's not consistent about what she's going to do. And
she's consistent now.
Oh, now, yeah, she's consistently voting with Trump, but
yeah,
she says one thing and then she'll change her mind. And
yeah, I mean, what I think is really vile about her is that she's the right thing to do, and then I mean, it's one thing to pretend that all about being a jackass, just who you are. I mean, if you're Jim Jordan and you live and breathe idiocy, at least you're consistent.
Yeah,
right?
And he puts it out there.
He puts it out there like, that is me.
Yep. Yeah.
Take it or leave it. And I'll leave it. But I think it's worse to be somebody like Susan Collins, who's like,
yep.
acts who at the up until the last minute act like she's, she understands right from wrong and is going to do the right thing because she knows it's right, and then does exactly the wrong.
Yeah.
She's got deals to make.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
And she doesn't always do it. She says she's going to vote for the community, and she doesn't, because she'll say, well, and she's so wishy-washy. Like you said, put it on the table. If you're going to be, I would rather, I mean, I really wouldn't want to deal with Jim Jordan because I think he's an idiot.
He's gross.
But I would rather deal with that because I know where you stand. When you don't show me where you stand, it's not good, because you're it's more than being two-faced. You're being like, I can't even find a word to call it because it's so wishy-washy. And like, she said she would never, vote somebody in who would take away Roe versus Wade. But then she voted for, they could have taken.
And she'll vote for this new one too, if she gives the opportunity, and
I think
her whole, her first statement on this thing was, it shouldn't come to a vote. And people want to, be her for that, for taking a stand. If you know Susan speak, then, what she just said is, if and when this comes to a vote, I will vote for her.
Yeah.
But, it shouldn't come to a vote.
It should. Yeah,
because she has to, show a little,
That's all for her reelection. That's the only reason why she's saying that.
It's tossing people up, and it drives me nuts.
What are you doing to help get the vote out?
Well, before COVID, I had been pretty active. I was working with a group called Swing Left Maine, which is a national organization.
Mm-hmm.
Their focus is on sort of, especially on down ballot candidates, the idea of, they call it a 3-tier strategy, where they look at all the races around the country, and then they look at the ballots where is the money best concentrated. So if we get votes out to these, quote, super states, where they have the maximum amount of return in terms of not just the president, but also Senate and House races. We're going to focus all of our energies on those places. So the idea is, of course, get a blue president, but also flip the Senate and flip the House.
Yeah.
And then in local areas, try to make even down to the local levels, even at this point, your mayors and things like that, these all count,
Yep.
anything anything that has any power over how we end up voting at the local level
Yep.
counts now. It's all in play.
Yep.
The intricacies that people are playing with, the strings that are getting pulled, mess with our ability to cast a vote, and who's going to vote and who doesn't, and the gerrymandering to make sure that certain candidates get the amount of votes that they need to stay in office or to
Yep.
get kicked out of office, is just out of control. So you can't, back in the day, you could vote a mixed ticket. Because you could vote for the candidate that you thought was best. And it didn't matter so much because politicians worked together for the good of the country, right?
Yeah.
But we're not in a position where we could do that anymore. The tribes are so
we're so dug in and opposed to each other. It's which
nobody,
it's not good for our country. I wish we could go back to a place where people were, more independent, even if they were a Democrat, a staunch Democrat or a staunch Republican, they could cross the aisle and work with the other side. And now it's like if they work with, if I'm a Democrat and I work with a Republican, it's like,
oh, compromise is a dirty word now. And I think that is so, it's so disturbing, and, like on the one hand, insisting on that, pure blue ticket, one could argue sort of it, of course. But on the other hand, I also feel that there is evidence that there are people on our side that are willing to stretch a hand out and work across the aisle. And there's exceptional evidence that the people on the other side are willing to support anything and everything that it wants to do, no matter how damaging it is to America. So I think for now, just getting rid of that mentality, clearing it out, is the first line of business, so that maybe someday we can start making more bipartisan decisions in terms of who we can trust to go there. But for right now, that party is.
What do you say to people who are, definitely Bernie supporters and who just are angry that Bernie didn't get the nomination again? I think that people need to realize it's not, yes, you can be angry and or upset or sad or just depressed that Bernie wasn't the nominee, but if you have these progressive, very progressive issues that you want to be dealt with, there's no way it's going to be dealt with if Trump gets elected again. It'll only be dealt with. You have Biden will work on these. He might not do everything that the very progressive side of the Democratic tent wants, but he's going to work on climate change. He will work on healthcare. He will work on all these progressive things that we all want, that just might not be to the extent that Bernie would have, or the way Bernie would have. So what do you say to people who have that mentality, like they're not even going to vote, or they're going to vote third candidate this year because that was a throwaway vote last time?
Mm-hmm. I think it's very just. I think it's I find it a very privileged standpoint to take. because of the damage that Trump is doing, the very real, you can put your finger on it, damage that he is doing to minority communities.
Yes.
I mean, not only is he killing people of all colors with his mishandling of, but he, the danger that he poses to the Black community because of his affiliations with white supremacy, his stance on immigrants, the aggressions that he encourages towards Hispanic people, towards Muslims. He's doing clear damage to these people.
I agree.
To me, I understand very. I didn't get my candidate either. I worked on Elizabeth Warren's campaign up until the day that she announced, and I still have her sign in my window. I won't take it down.
You don't have to,
Yes, it's in my window, not on my lawn, so I'm just gonna leave it. It makes me feel good. But it is so important that every vote possible gets this candidate who says that he is going to use all means possible to stand. He's made that clear. We need an overwhelming turnout.
Mm-hmm. To make up for the suppression of for the communities that are going to be suppressed.
Yes, we need everybody to come out there. So I find that an expression of privilege beyond anything that my heart can take.
Yeah.
It is just, it's not about putting somebody you don't like in office. You can hate Biden all you want, but Biden isn't killing anybody. And you would be hard pressed to convince me that he is nearly the threat. Trump is the devil we know.
Yeah.
And I don't see how anybody could do more damage than he's done.
I agree. I fully agree with that. I fully agree. Let's kind of swing it back to go along with what we're talking about right now, but also bring it back to our earlier conversation. Yesterday, not to name drop, but yesterday I got to be on not a panel, but be in an event. I got to watch an event with President Barack Obama,
nice,
Kamala Harris, our VP pick,
woo,
and the actor Michael B. Jordan, and they talked about how policing. They talked a little bit about policing, but also the justice system needs to be totally revamped. And also they talked about representation and how it was kind of for me as a mixed girl, especially, when I found out, I don't know if you saw my video, when I found out that Kamala was going to be his pick, I screamed like I was being murdered. I was just like going, and then I started crying because as a representation, that to me, that was just like, oh, that to see me on a stage, and I know she's not me, but you see yourself, I see myself in her, she's also a mixed girl. but also like me, she considers herself a Black woman. So what, as Joe's VP, you know, whether you wanted to vote for her originally or not, what do you think about him picking Kamala as his running mate?
I mean, I think I would honestly, I was kind of rooting for Susan Rice. Really wanted I wanted to see a woman of color.
Mhm.
I wasn't in love with Kamala as a candidate in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the idea of this vice presidency being a pipeline to presidency with him only having one term. So having a woman of color take this VP and becoming not just the first woman president, but having our first woman president be a Black woman president, I'm 100% behind that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So in terms of representation, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
In terms of I'm not 100% on board yet, but I'm open to it.
Yeah. Okay, that is fair enough. That is fair enough. Not everybody, like you said, not everybody gets who their pick is. We just gotta get behind.
Oh, I'm behind. I am behind. Believe
get
me.
behind the ticket, even if they're not your picks.
Yeah.
Because they will, like I said, they will get us closer.
And hey, I want to see everybody excited about her. The more people, I want to see everybody excited about her. But I don't, if you ask me a question, I'm not a smoke blower. So.
Oh no, I that's why I'm having these conversations, because everybody has different opinions. Like I said, I can be excited about her, and
yes, I'm glad. I think I would not have wanted to make that choice.
Yeah.
Because that was a loaded. No matter what choice he made, there were going to be a lot of excited people and a lot of disappointed people.
Yeah.
It's so important that everybody be excited right now, so I try not to actually, I try to avoid any discussion again, just because I don't like
to make it.
Yeah, I don't like to put salt anywhere around.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, I'm gonna be happy about everything.
But I think partially because I don't know if you watch a lot of the Senate. I can't think when she questions people.
Oh gosh, yes, love her like that, and looking forward to the very much looking forward to the VP debate. I know she will be fantastic. I know So yes, I love her in that role.
Yeah. And I mean, she's very comfortable there. I just think I've just that fierceness. I can appreciate.
I do love that.
Yeah, I love her from seeing that, and just like I said, I feel a kinship with her. But like we said, everybody has a difference of opinion, and everybody can feel the way they want. I think she's also good for Joe. Him and Susan Rice also had a really good connection. So I know he probably had a really hard choice of picking her or Susan Rice. I think partly because her and Susan have different personalities, and I think she brings a little more.
Definitely more electricity with her.
That's probably the word I'm looking for.
I think it was the right decision. Not mine.
And that's fine. That is quite all right. Let me think if I have any other questions. Is there anything else that you want to mention?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered quite a bit of things. We had this talk. This has been a really good time.
It has been, and we'll have to do it again, sometime.
Anytime.
love to have you back on. And also sometime hopefully once this disease clears out, you know, I can get up to Maine and come visit you all up there.
I'd like that. That would be wonderful.
I would like to spend more time. I love the area, you know, the area that I've been to that area a couple times before, but you know, the area that you guys are in is a really great area because it's like, you know, you got the city, but you also, you know, the house, you know, where people live in houses and stuff. It's a little not quite by downtown and stuff like that. So it's nice.
Yeah, I love this area. We really lucked out.
Yeah, it's really nice up there. So I'm gonna end this. It was so wonderful to have you. And like I said, I definitely would love to bring you back on for another interview and share some more thoughts with you because it was a great conversation. Thank you so much. And I am Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Thank you.